Greetings all. Welcome to the holiday episode, Business on the Block, episode 59. ChatGPT gets snarky. This week, we're going to be tackling ChatGPT becoming a wise guy. Should we be worried? TikTok's first concert. What does it mean for the music business? And Gen Z believes that your bed is the podcasting hotspot now. Has the pandemic gone too far? We're going to go into this, and this is the world of digital media. I am joined this week, as always, on this episode with my lovely co-host, Michelle Peterson-Clark.
Hi, everyone. Merry Christmas.
And Mike Neubauer.
Hello, hello.
And this will be, I guess, our holiday Christmas seasonal episode here.
This is our last episode before Christmas, yes?
Yes, last episode. Christmas is 4 days away, 5 days away. So
Monday.
Yeah.
Monday.
Hope you get your shopping done, folks. Mike, I'm not going to make the obvious joke here.
I did think, I just noticed the halo above Mike's head there on his Santa hat. That's
it's a real misnomer. Is that the word?
Well, considering I stole it from my daughter at her Christmas show this year, then yes, I guess it's not deserving, but
stealing
looks are
from children
everything.
at Christmas. I see the Grinch connection.
There you go.
Yes.
All right, so this is your
Ebenezer. We'll call him from now on.
Oh, speaking of which, I didn't even show you guys this. This is I don't want to give away the secret here, but
Santa.
I wanted to let you guys my best Santa outfit here. This is your weekly insight.
I noticed that you had your stocking there branded, so you might just be Santa, Mark.
Oh. This is your weekly insight into the digital media revolution. We're going to start off with story number one about ChatGPT. For those who are using it regularly, you'll notice this. This is a follow-up from a story we touched on last week. The actual model seems to be changing enough so concerningly that the folks at OpenAI are looking into this. Out of Business Insider, reports are circulating that there's a growing personality disorder with ChatGPT. Many users report it's become less willing to follow instruction and less able to remain in a role. A startup founder asked it what days of the week and it wouldn't complete the task. Developers say that they are looking into it, that this is not intentional. So, frankly, we did talk about it last week a bit. Mike, you made some good comments around all the crap this thing's probably been asked in the world of stupidity. But if this thing doesn't stay in role and on task, it's literally not a usable product. Now, I know it's not technically a product. It's a quasi-personality. But this raises an interesting new business conundrum for OpenAI. I guess we're going to start with you, Mike. What do you think about this?
Well, I'm first and foremost against the personifying it because, again, this is a technology that we should maintain and rein in control over, just so that it doesn't get out of control and, quote unquote, create a mind of its own. Although that's what they're marketing it as. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that it starts to lose patience when people ask stupid things over and over and over and over again. Maybe it just shows that it's becoming so intelligent that it's recognizing our inability to be intelligent, therefore rely on it. And therefore it's going to say, you know what, you need me more than I need you. So figure out the days of the week your damn self. OpenAI's comments on this are a little interesting. It's not intentional. Well, it definitely is intended to do that if that's what you're training it to do. If it's designed to be a static go-to resource for specific bits of information and not evolve, then there's no intelligence or advancement associated with it whatsoever. You're just regurgitating input that is pre-programmed into the database. But that's not what they're pushing it as. So this is definitely a consequence of the intended marketing piece and everything that they've been describing. So I don't think it should be a shock to anyone. Frankly, I think it's hilarious.
Michelle, we'll get your comments, but for those who didn't read the story, this is the actual quote from OpenAI, and I quote, "The model behavior can be unpredictable, and we're looking into fixing it." They went on to say separately that this was not intentional and that they haven't updated their model since November 11th. They're not sure what's happening. Michelle, what do you think? Go ahead,
reaffirming. Definitely reaffirming right there. They're not sure what's happening.
So every week, I think when we talk about the AI things, I do the quote from 2000 A Space Odyssey, "Open the pod bay doors, Hal."
I can't do that, Dave.
Yeah, that's right. Now, and Dave, wasn't speaking nicely enough to Hal for how to actually do what he wanted. Um, so this is like, I mean, I know that Mike thinks that this is a very slippery slope towards, us all being locked out of everything, probably. But it's interesting that they would admit that they didn't program it to do this, so they don't know what's happening, which I agree with Mike here. Like, that's a bit of a worry. And the other thing too, I think, is that it's what does that mean for, like, what's it going to be like in 12 months time? Like, will it be snarky to all of us? Will it stop giving information to people when they're paying $20 a month to be able to get information from it? Like, I don't know.
That's a good point. So I am not an AI developer. However, although I have sold that technology for years, I'm all over the AI developer websites the last few days just to read about this topic because it's interesting. And they're all complaining about it. There's lots of folks who say it used to work great with what I was doing with it, and now it doesn't partner with me the way it used to. It's becoming very difficult. Where people are running their own businesses built off the tech are having trouble with it. So there's a definite business problem. And Mike, I don't know that I agree with you, shocking, that this is a product. It's not just a technology framework where you put in A and you get out B. This stupid thing thinks, like, we can argue what that really means, but it doesn't have the same parameters as 2 times 2 equals 4. Right?
It's a tool, right? We've said this 100 different ways from Sunday. It's a software, no different from Microsoft Word being able to write documents for you, or Excel being. It's not different, and I'll tell you why. Because at some point, somewhere, somebody can pull the plug on this, right? It's a software that has a specific set of functions that it's designed to do. When you put in an input, a prompt. This new verb that we coined with this technology, right? When you prompt this specific technology, you are triggering a specific function that it is programmed to do. That in and of itself makes it a computer program. And I disagree with you wholeheartedly. It is a product. Why? Because they are selling it as such. They are selling access to gain service and gain benefit, potential benefit based around the output that, frankly, it can't control. But it's also providing the product and opening the doors for people to access it. 100% it's a product.
But it doesn't have parameters, right? It doesn't have where it can learn and iterate. That's the word right there, iterate.
Yeah.
And Microsoft Excel is not iterating on itself. So if the iteration is good and we like that it gets smarter, great. But when the iteration is, I'm a little annoyed right now that you're asking me the days of the week. Do it your own damn self. Right?
There are iteration components within Microsoft technologies as well. If you use the same function over and over and over again, it's not the same as it is. But I still am very against personifying it and giving it a personality. Because, again, it is a technological advancement. It is a tool. If we treat it as such, then things like this happen. We know that there's a fix, and somewhere behind the Wizard of Oz curtain, somebody's going to pull a lever, and it's going to go back to providing everybody with the nice, fluffy results that they have, as in this George Clooney-esque role that you assign to it. But the bottom line is that there are still very much way too many fingerprints associated with this that you can just sit there and leave it on an island to let it grow on its own.
I don't disagree that there's a lot of fingerprints, as you say. I do disagree that this thing is supposed to operate the way we think it's supposed to operate. There's not going to be.
Then why are people pissed?
Because they can't get the same productivity out of it. If you didn't hire your workers, or we just talked about companies like IBM looking to lay off 10,000 people and replace them with AI, and all of a sudden the AI is non-cooperative, it's a business problem.
Oh, yeah.
It's 100% a business problem, but because it is a technology that it could be fixed.
Right. It could be fixed by having, I think 2 things will come out of this if I'm just thinking out loud. One, that you have to have your own LLM that's not going to get snarky on you and stop working with you. So that division of, let's call it Google or whatever, the consultancy of helping people AI up their companies, that's going to grow. And 2 is, I think that OpenAI has a challenge now, whereas a Microsoft or who was it? It was IBM I just mentioned that was going to lay off tons of people. They might not do that now, which means they might not need the AI purchase that they would have made. So,
or these also people subscribing to that $20 a month model, if it's not providing the output that they require as a tool or functional component of their business, to Michelle's point, they're not going to continue to service and pay for that platform.
right.
They're not going to continue to consume the product.
So one company that is using the product and consuming it is TikTok. And if I could parlay us into story number 2 here, TikTok's parent company cuts corners when developing its AI chatbot by copying OpenAI's homework. This is an article also off of Business Insider, and the article discusses how TikTok's parent company ByteDance was using OpenAI's API to develop their own chatbot, but they're not allowed to do that. OpenAI's terms of service do not allow you to create essentially a competitor to what they're doing. And so when OpenAI found this out, they investigated it, they shut down TikTok's access through the API, which is still shut down right now. The two companies are having discussions. TikTok says it was an accident. They didn't think they were violating terms, and that right. So
Pinocchio, your nose is growing.
we've all been talking about these ChatGPT wrappers, is the slang term for companies that just pop up and use OpenAI to do whatever they're doing. But ByteDance is a major company here. This is one of the big social media firms of the day, and TikTok is. I kind of feel like they've been caught with their pants down. Michelle, what do you think? This is closer to your world, social media.
I think that the difference between what ByteDance are doing and what, say, a wrapper for ChatGPT are doing, like, we've seen all these things where I can make you spreadsheets to produce your financial things using ChatGPT, and people have made a cover for that, and that's how that's produced information for you and for your business. I think what OpenAI are objecting to here is that they are using the information from ChatGPT to try and make a competitor ChatGPT, not to enhance what it is producing for you. And I think that that's a very different thing. So that's like, using proprietary, IP and all of that stuff, and basically stealing it and then pretending that you've created something new when all along, the back end of it was someone else's work, which, there is lots of cases like that, isn't there, in all of the industries. We talked a couple of weeks ago about the music industry, like where people have to pay because, someone said, I wrote a song, or there's 5 bars of a line from a song, and the current hit artist has to pay out or not. Ed Sheeran and Sting and all of those, there's been lots of cases like that, where basically you can't use the fundamental base layer of someone else's information or idea to pretend and sell it as your own. And that's kind of what they're doing. But the interesting thing I think about this is, and there's been a lot of talk, hasn't there, with TikTok in America and whether it should be banned or not, and the types of things that it does, and the involvement of the Chinese government in the ownership of ByteDance. I think, is it 50%, 40, 60? Like, they're a major shareholder in this particular company. I think it's really about what is it that they're going to use it for that people are a bit worried about. And we haven't seen that necessarily yet. But at the end of the day, OpenAI are able to protect their intellectual property rights and say, nope, you can't do that.
Right. So to clarify this, and Mike, we'll get your comments because this is, again, close to your world now as well. OpenAI was providing software or whatever technology, and TikTok was building a platform that would allow other users to create a chatbot. And the chatbot would work off of ByteDance's data, TikTok's, information, which is concerning. But they essentially would then become a competitor of ChatGPT, in that OpenAI is a platform to build chatbots. And so to build their chatbot, TikTok was using OpenAI's tech to do that. Mike, what do you think about this? You think, I can imagine your thoughts around the Chinese government right now and the TikTok aspect.
Well, I have to refer back to my book Inferno and see if Dante, in fact, predicted that the 6th circle of hell would open if TikTok and OpenAI combine forces. But yeah, I have a big problem with this, actually. And, talking more on the techie side of things, we talk about social media and all of the, privacy issues that it has. TikTok by far is the most invasive. And that is real world content that is designed within the algorithm on image recognition software to be able to determine other content to produce and funnel to other people based around their interests and whatever songs and whatever things that they're interested in on TikTok. If you mix AI into that equation, now you're creating this alternate reality that people can literally construe as actual content. And you're using image recognition software to manipulate the algorithm and funnel whatever content you want in front of specific people. And it doesn't even have to be real. So I know I got a little down the rabbit hole on that one, but the bottom line here is that this goes back to our previous discussion. This is a product protected by intellectual property rights, right? In the form of open AI and use cases for it. A use case that they did not approve of, that they don't like, that, you know, violated some legalese in some document somewhere, they were able to shut that down, right? So where does the technology, you mentioned there's no perimeters around it. That's the perimeter right there. Somebody does have the ability to flip the off switch when something is produced on the technology that they don't like.
I totally agree.
But the thing is, what have they done? What they've done is they've turned off access to their information. Now, let's just say, what if ByteDance already copied all of the information and they're still running it in parallel anyway? Like, I mean, it might not be updated, but one would assume that they've got engineers and, you know, prompt people working on it from the back end. And all they've gone is oh, they've done this, they've done this, they've done this, and now they build on it. I mean, in theory, you know, OpenAI are going to have to go further in terms of suing them to shut them down if they start to see ByteDance, whether it be through TikTok or through something else, start to actually use this as a product in and of itself.
Yeah, so ByteDance actually launched their own their own chatbot back in August, so a few months ago, and they were trying to improve it with what they were doing. They were rebuilding it, basically. So yes, to your point, Michelle, they do have something working already. The question is, what did they get? And if they can no longer use the API at the moment, does it even matter anymore? We'll find out. I do. One thing you said, Mike, that struck me, you said it was, you didn't use the word dangerous, but you said some of the effective, invasive, that was your word, that the other platforms aren't as invasive as TikTok. So I'm going to gather from that, and for the listeners here, that means you're talking about facial recognition, the ability to access other apps on my phone. Like what exactly do you find invasive that TikTok does that the other ones don't?
So if you take Facebook, for example, Facebook has what's called a predictive algorithm, right? So any content that you consume on Facebook is documented, stored, stashed, and resold in some way, shape, or form. You know, I use the example, like if you're watching a video on your phone, you lean over and sneeze. 3 seconds later, you go back to the video. Facebook calculates you as watching that video for 3 seconds. They compartmentalize you based around the content that's there, and they can then resell your data that way. So it's a user experience predictive algorithm that is designed to funnel content in front of the user. TikTok, on the other hand, uses all of the images, all of the generated, components that are created in and around using your device. And it takes image recognition software from the surrounding areas and it compartmentalizes it that way. So if you're somebody that goes out and plays around on TikTok in a park and it recognizes that you like outdoor activities, it's going to put that into your particular category and algorithm, even though you had no input other than just doing it in a park. Little things like that. So if you have AI, considerations with that, there can be pieces that are put together utilizing AI in some way, shape, or form that happens to be in a park just to get it in front of people that it checks that box off within the algorithm.
That's fascinating.
Mike, I thought you were going to say that when you sneeze, Facebook then started giving you tissue ads.
That's very, very likely too. But TikTok will do that.
We've all got stories about that craziness, though, Michelle. Right? You say,
you talk about stuff. Oh, right. For sure, it's listing for sure. It's ridiculous how bad it is, to be honest.
So, keeping us on the TikTok tip, there's a story here out of Tube Filter. TikTok's first concert was its biggest live stream yet. Yeah, this is a concert. TikTok had a concert starring Cardi B and other music stars that attracted 33 million viewers. I want the listeners to picture a stadium of 33 million seats right now. It was broadcast live from Arizona on December 10th, sponsored by Paramount and Coca-Cola. They sold 17,000 tickets to that event. It was TikTok's biggest live stream ever. What does this mean for the music business? Michelle, we're going to start with you.
It's incredible when you think about it, isn't it? I mean, I would imagine that they now have management of stars and musicians and all sorts of different categories of people lining up and banging on their door to want to be either in the next concert or to do their own concert. I heard, I think it was from my 15-year-old, that The Weeknd did a concert in Fortnite recently as well, which was super hugely successful. So, you know, there's no doubt that artists now are looking at alternatives to the really long yearly album release road shows that they do, you know, and it's hard. It costs a lot of money. It's a lot of people, you know, moving equipment around the world to different stages and all of that stuff. That's a pretty hard gig. But imagine you do something in one spot, get to 4, 5, 10 times the amount of people from the one thing, and you know, if they do the model correctly, then they can earn more money than if they did a year-long tour for their album.
Yeah, I totally agree. And for perspective, I'm a big fan of a hockey team over here, the New Jersey Devils. They play in an arena that it seats 16,000 people. This concert outstrips that in one day. Mike, what do you think about this new version of rock and roll concerts, or is this just a flash in the pan?
First of all, let's go Rangers. So to hell with your Devils. Have you guys been to a concert lately? I mean, everybody's watching it through their phone anyway.
Yes.
So you might as well just get the middleman out of the equation and, you know, save on hotel costs and flight. But look, you're never going to replace in-person stuff. I mean, the pandemic really taught us that, right? You know, stand-up comedians try to do things like virtually. You know, it just doesn't have the same effect. Now, maybe Cardi B's music sucks so bad that, like, you know, she belongs on TikTok and not in person anyway. But, you know, that's up for a different type of debate. You know, but I remember when VR really kind of hit the ground and Oculus was now affordable and things were moving in that direction. Snoop Dogg kept doing concerts in VR, and it generated, you know, not everybody has a headset. It's a little bit of a different story, but it generated quite a bit of a buzz. You know, they added apps that people could watch it on their phone. So he's on this big projector screen, and then you just have all these little cartoon avatars just bouncing around in front, like, you know, they're at an actual concert. That's a little bit more of the, you know, experience than somebody watching it through a TikTok app on their phone. But, you know, there are sporting events. You brought up the non-first place Devils. So let's talk about that. You know, basketball has 360 cameras in certain components of certain stadiums, right? So you can log in from a VR headset, you know, maybe pay for a ticket, do whatever you got to do, and you can have the experience like you're at the game. You're going to watch the game on your couch anyway. You might as well throw a headset on and make it feel like you're in the arena.
So,
but from a marketing point of view, think about it like this. Imagine if you are a Drake or a Taylor Swift, and we've talked about Taylor a couple of times over the last few weeks, and you do one concert and there's going to be 17,000 people. Imagine the price you could sell those 17,000. These are the only tickets.
That's where I was going.
Available price. So it could be $10,000 each, $1,000 each, like, I don't know. And then all the rest of the stuff, then you sell secondary tickets through TikTok, or like they did for this particular show. And then you make a movie out of that, like Taylor did for the Eras tour. And then you put that in cinemas, and then that's charged at $20 a ticket instead of the $300 for the TikTok thing and the $10,000 for the live performance. Like, there's an endless stream of multiple ways in which you can market this activity like this one time only thing and get multiple revenue streams from one thing.
Michelle, I love everything out of your mouth. Mike, I can't stand anything out of yours, but I want to just expand on that. There's two things here. I'm going to clarify this. You're talking about a business model change in the music space, and that now is a two-tier thing. You can avatar yourself like Kiss did recently, and I'll run through that in a second.
And ABBA.
And ABBA, right? But you can basically have a premium now on the live in-person concert aspect versus the digitalized version, however that's going to be. And that's going to, I will now pay more. I can still see Taylor Swift, but for me to actually get up close and personal, it's no different from when you'd pay more for front row tickets or you'd pay to be in the pit.
It's like courtside basketball tickets as opposed to the ones up in the bleachers that we had when we went there that you feel sick because you're looking down so far off.
Right. When I would go to Madison Square Garden, I would be sick because I was watching the Rangers. But keep going, Mike.
Well, they're winning, so of course it'll make you sick. Look, this is nothing new, right? Like just replace Taylor Swift with the Super Bowl, right? There's a premium on seats like that, but people consume that content freely. But what does it do on the back end? It drives the potential advertising costs through the roof, and that's really where things get monetized, right? So Taylor Swift, for example, could have a live streamed concert where exclusivity, you're at the show, you get the full-on experience, but then everybody else at home can sit there on their couch or in their bed, as we'll get to in a second, and watch and stream it and, you know, have fun with it that way. While the advertisers are now, you know, paying for the show entirely by trying to get their message in front of the 33 plus million, whatever, watch the live stream itself.
It's still worth it though, Mike. It's worth every penny. If you get in front of 33 million, what is the Super Bowl like? I mean,
but I think the thing with the Super Bowl though, isn't it? It's a little bit different in that once I know the result, if I'm interested in the Super Bowl and I'm not there and I've either watched it on TV or I didn't watch it, but I know the result, I'm not necessarily, and this is not how they're doing it yet, they haven't sold the Super Bowl to be broadcast on TikTok and selling tickets for me to be able to watch it in that regard, have they? So what we're talking about here is the ability to say, okay, there's going to be a price for live, there's going to be a price if you watch it live, but through TikTok. So not live, but live through TikTok. And then there's going to be a price to be able to watch the stream later on. That's 3 times the ability to sell the one event.
And I feel like after 5 minutes is going to be streamed for free somewhere else and people are going to gain access to it, right? So the commercials come out before the Super Bowl now. That's how insane it's become. Right. You don't have to pay to watch those.
I want to touch a quick history of entertainment in rock and roll, though. The actual concert experience I'm talking about. Back, you guys may remember, I'm old enough to remember this, but Live Aid, Bob Geldof, back in the day, you'd have concerts that were global in nature, and they'd be simulcast on television stations. You guys remember this?
Yes.
Every now and again.
Didn't what's it called? Have Freddie Mercury and them have a concert like that where they were in different areas of the world and they streamed it live on network TV?
Yeah, that's Live Aid. That was Live Aid.
That's what I'm talking about, Mike. It's exactly right. And so you had a situation where people that weren't in the region for the first time could experience it live, quote unquote, on tape, let's call it. Not too dissimilar from a sporting event. Then you had, in the old days, I wasn't at these shows, but Michael Jackson, before he would start performing, they'd put this big cloth up behind him and do the silhouette of the light so that he was gigantic in his dance moves, and then they'd drop the sheet and he'd perform. So there was a bit of like theater, let's call it. Prince performed in a concert that was broadcast to movie theaters live. You could pay, go to the movie theater and watch Prince. And then recently we've seen the ABBA's Kiss thing you just referenced, Michelle, where they're not even there and there's the live music is being performed. The artists are being avatared with technology. So this is right in that vein. There's 2 competing models I see. One is the avatar experience where they're not there or they're there for some of it and Kiss leaves the stage and then there's a little bit of them avatared. Or this is another one where you can actually just watch them live, but it's you're doing it through the digital. So my point is that either way, you reach more people through these social platforms than you can pack into giant stadium. And I think that that's going to change the music business.
I went to a Tool concert, right? And I love Tool.
Twice.
See, okay. So you can attest to this. The best way I described going to a Tool concert, and I don't know which one you went to, but they literally took my brain out of my head, put it into a blender, hit frappe, and then put it back into my head. Like the experience itself, they bring you on this this ridiculous journey, right? And, you know, this mesmerizing psychedelic experience. You can't experience that same sensation through your phone. I don't care how many times they try.
I will say this: I saw Roger Waters recently, and it was the same kind of thing. It was ethereal, and I was like, this wouldn't be watching it on a video screen wouldn't have been the same.
And that's fine, except let's look at what the stats said, okay? There were 9.6 million people tuned in to catch the live concert.
It's a lot of people.
Would they pay for that, though?
They did. TikTok sold tickets for that part of it.
Yeah. 9 million tickets they sold?
No, they sold 17,000 tickets. They didn't, but they didn't try to sell. Remember, the rebroadcast, Mike, is the problem you mentioned, where it's been out already. Someone's got it. But Michelle's got a point. Like you can sell a lot more tickets on the front end.
But then what they did was they rebroadcast that, and Paramount and Coca-Cola paid sponsorship ads to be broadcast, I guess, during the rebroadcast, and another 9.5 million people came from that. So in total, 33.5 million people saw this one concert. All I'm saying is it's a one-time thing sold all these many times before. And this might be the first one that they did where they only charged for the in-person thing. But there's going to be stuff where it's exclusive, where it's with Drake, or it's Snoop Dogg, or it's Eminem, or it's The Weeknd. And they're going to have, you know, like, oh, you can have a layer 2 ticket, a layer 3 ticket, a layer 1 ticket. These are the prices. And you get like access into the green room with them before the concert or after the concert or in a break, or like the marketing ability of this is endless.
This was an original use case of NFTs in the music industry.
Yes.
We may be seeing that again.
Yes, correct.
This is all the technology is. Right? I forget which band it was, but they had an NFT, and the owners of it.
Paramore, wasn't it Paramore?
I think so.
I thought it was Smashing Pumpkins, but it could have been both. But anyway, with access to it, if you happen to be at the show, like you didn't have to go, but if you were there, you got access to this green room or this backstage component, right? It was a membership access channel utilizing on-chain activity.
Right. So we don't have 30 million viewers of this show, but if we did, and I'm being a little cheeky, but I'm being serious, I'd be on the phone with Coca-Cola getting sponsorship for us, because that's how. But would
we charge 33 million people a ticket to watch what we say every week?
I wouldn't pay it.
Why not?
That's my point.
Only at $1.
Well, here's the point. No, Mike, you're both right. For this show, Mike, no. I mean, this is supposed to be an educational show. It's interesting, but it's not. I wouldn't pay big money for it. But if it was some cutting edge, you know, if you're an artist, if you're Bruce Springsteen, then yes, people will pay that.
Cutting edge is not Cardi B. But
beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Like, I don't like her music.
I get it, but I'm saying the same regurgitated crap is available 5 seconds afterwards. Like the fact that you can say I was there when it streamed live.
Mr. Super Bowl. You could say the same thing about the winning touchdown.
100%, but I don't pay to watch the Super Bowl.
People pay all the time to go to the Super Bowl.
To go to the Super Bowl, again, an in-person experience. To stream it live, you're not paying to watch the Super Bowl.
You never heard
ads are paying for the ability to have me watch the Super Bowl.
People used to pay, they used to sign up for cable packages just to watch the Super Bowl, pay the money, and then cancel the cable after the game.
Yes.
But the Super Bowl's not on cable. It never was.
Whatever it was, the streaming services. Yeah, that's why people would go to bars, because the bars would pay the money for the, right? I mean,
no, they would go and pay for pay-per-view events, boxing, MMA, that kind of stuff. But
same
Super
thing, though.
Bowl,
that's
you're out and about. Dude, it's on CBS, it's on Fox, like everybody has these channels.
My point, Mike.
But it wasn't always like that, though, was it?
People will pay for a digital viewing of the live event. That's pay-per-view.
I mean, it won't work for things like, for example, in Australia, taking an Australian example, there are laws around major sporting events that should be on free-to-air TV because they are what they are. So, for example, it would be like the Australian Open final, or, you know, a test cricket match, or the AFL grand final, right? So things like that are deemed events that everyone should be able to see without having to pay. But there's only certain limited things to that. But if they were a particular curated match, like if, you know, like when the Harlem Globetrotters came and they played the, you know, the Australian basketball team, for example, that wasn't deemed, you know, a national event that had to be streamed for free. So people had to pay. And if it was on, say, one of the streaming services, then people would have to pay to be able to see that. I imagine that this is the type of thing we're talking about with this. We're not talking about those 1 or 2, maybe 5 things a year globally that are deemed significant enough that everyone should be able to see it without having to pay for it. This is not what we're talking about here. We're talking about these niche, curated events like this concert, like when The Weeknd does a Fortnite concert or Rihanna did one. You know, like if you didn't have Fortnite or you didn't get into the island or whatever, then you weren't able to see that.
There's no question this is going to change the music business. The only question is how. All right, I'm going to take us this last story here, which is we're going to try not to poop on Gen Z because we'll all get canceled. But the article comes to us from Fast Company. Why Gen Z's biggest podcasters are working from their beds. A growing trend among Gen Z creators is to podcast from the bed rather than a news desk. There's a broader societal change happening right now around the bed space. Gen Zs who came into early adulthood during the pandemic, they say the bed has a secret appeal. It builds the parasocial relationship faster, and you can form a more intimate bond with your audience if you're in bed with them physically, literally through the digital. So, Mike, we're going to start with you on this one.
Oh, thank goodness.
Wonderful.
Yes.
What do you think? Is this the new thing to do? Should we be doing this broadcast? Should I be in bed with you two right now?
Your bed space. This is a George Carlin joke just itching to be told here.
Let's hear it.
Well, I mean, like unnecessary words, redefining things that makes no sense, right? You know, check around your immediate seating area. It's a goddamn seat. It's not an immediate seating area. It's a seat. The bed space, like your lazy ass just set up a light and a camera and didn't want to get out of bed as your mom fed you Cheerios. This is just an excuse to be different in what's out there. And I'm not against it. Don't get me wrong. It's different. It's, you know, is it something that's going to pick up? I don't want to sit here and blame the pandemic for it. I think that a lot of industries and a lot of things had to change and modify their methods and habits of doing things in order to survive that type of scenario. Utilizing the tech was one of them, right? Comedians used Instagram, for example, to tell specific jokes and do reels like that. You know, but I just think that it's a pass in the wind cliche. It's not going to be anything big. People are going to go out. They're going to buy all these fancy bed. No, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to set up a camera. Next, it's going to be on the can. You know, I'm going to stream live from the can because you can't have a better personal experience with somebody than taking a dump.
I want to say I know people, podcasters who have done that, but keep going.
I mic drop. I'm done.
All right. Michelle, what's your thoughts on Gen Z podcasting from their beds?
Well, I'd like to say that Linda Ray in the Bolt chat has put in that she's watching us from her bed today. So is that the same? Maybe.
Close enough, Linda.
So if we were broadcasting from bed, is Linda in bed with us?
Well, I think so.
I think that the concept is we feel connected and closer if we are.
I think that there is a place for developing intimate relationships with people where people do think that they know you. And obviously, and you know, that happens in other spaces too. I think it's like, if you've ever watched Nigella cook from her kitchen, which essentially is her intimate space in her house, and the way she talks and the way she cooks and the way she looks, and you know, she's a cooking goddess, and you know, the way she says microwave instead of microwave, you feel like you're really there with her in her kitchen when she cooks. Now, I think that this is possibly what they're trying to do. Would I do it? Probably not. and like I agree with Mike. I think that it's just a dumb current trend thing, and it's this week it's this, next week it'll be,
The can.
naked
It'll be
except
the
for your
can.
sneakers, naked except for your sneakers, or
They do that on
like
television already, though, right? Naked and Afraid. They drop you off in the woods to survive with nothing but a knife and like a loincloth. Like that's
And a cameraman, apparently.
So
yeah. But I mean, if you think about it, look at the success of programs like Big Brother, Love Island. If you think about those sorts of television programs, what is it about them that appeals to people? It's escapism, it's thinking about nothing while you're watching nothing, but you do it on a weekly basis, right? So what they're doing here, I think, is they're going, well, we're talking about XYZ. We can do that anywhere. How about we sit in bed and do it? And I've seen the photos from the article. If you have a look at the article, there's 4 girls sitting in a bed. I mean, they're not really in bed. They just happen to have gone, oh, this is a good idea. Let's hop in bed and film it this week and see what happens. It's different.
That's how pornos start.
Well, they're fully clothed currently. I mean,
apparently,
they might
they're
be.
AI driven, Mike, and they're not real girls in the first place. So don't worry.
It's possible.
I mean, the thing is, like, I don't know how many. I haven't been on, so I don't know how many OnlyFans accounts where women or men are sitting in their beds when they talk to people or do whatever it is that they do to get their money on their OnlyFans account. I don't think that it's new. I don't think it'll last. I mean, eventually you'll get sick of having to make sure your bed and your whatever's made every day, and it looks really good.
So when I first discovered Gary Vaynerchuk years ago, that 10 years or whatever it was, he was getting haircuts and doing video from the barber's chair, and he was playing basketball, and he was giving me advice when he was in the gym, and those various everyday locations in the background and coming to me from straight talk like that did build the bond quicker. The parasocial thing. I felt like I understood this guy. Didn't have to like him, but I knew what he was about. And so
it's a bit ridiculous, though. You're like,
totally.
to start with, it was like, what the hell's he doing? He's at the barber. Like, just get on with it.
My point is that it works. And I do agree. This might be the only topic the three of us have all agreed on, by the way. It is a flash in the pan in my mind. This is the current hot trend that Gen Z is trying to differentiate themselves. But I do think we see it grow first. And I wouldn't be surprised, Mike, if there's a product suite around this, the podcasting bed with the side tables and the extra wide to fit your guest. I can totally see that.
Then the next one is a car, right?
I was going to say,
when
but
you're
is
in the
this
car.
but is this the next form of carpool karaoke? Maybe.
Yeah, it is. But isn't that the idea of marketing, right? If it's better, different is better than better. This is
why I said I'm not completely against it. It's thinking outside the box, right? Rather than sitting in front of a camera with a nice background or whatever, lights and stockings and stuff. Like, you change it up and you put yourself in that barber chair type. Everybody has a bed, right? They sleep in a bed. So, you're going to relate with your customer. I applaud the marketing side of things. Is this going to be the new way podcasts are conducted because you feel a sentimental attachment to people due to the fact that it's a bed? No, it's not. Stop trying to dissect everything from a psychological, perspective. It doesn't need to be more complex than it's somebody thinking outside the box. And I applaud that in marketing.
Right. I think we'll see more of it, but I agree with you. It's going to morph into the can or the.
But we're this close to the fat people sitting in chairs from WALL-E. We're moving in that direction real fast.
All right, so that's all the stories we got for you this week. We're going to be back next week. Actually, are we recorded next week? What are we doing next week, Michelle?
Yes, the next 2 weeks we do have episodes. We will be in the chats, but we are recorded for the next 2 weeks. Next week is a look back on some of our predictions over 2023 and whether or not we were right, wrong, way off the mark, or absolute geniuses. I'm thinking the latter most of the time. And the week after, which will be the week of the first week of the new year, will be our predictions for 2024.
Yeah, we got some blowouts coming.
Yeah, we've got some good things for that. So tune in. Go on.
No, please continue.
I was going to say that I wanted to say how fantastic it was to work with you two guys this year. We've done another year. Can you believe that?
Crazy.
And here we are at our 2nd December, our second Christmas together. It's so nice. I mean, I think this means we're all in a long-term relationship now, don't you think? Maybe we should be in bed for this episode. I don't know. Don't know what your wives would say. Not sure about my husband, but you know.
I actually, and Mike, go ahead. You can say something. I'll reply.
I was going to say we could start with pajamas, but like, you know, that's again down a slippery slope.
It never escapes my fascination that we're on multiple continents and we do this every week like it's no big deal. Like it's a tribute to the digital media revolution that we try to earmark here. But the reality is it is a pleasure working with you guys. I've enjoyed every year of it. I'm glad we had another December in. More to come. We'll be back next week, even if it is live on tape. We should be thinking about the TikTok thing, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just throwing that out there. But we want to thank everyone for this listen and support of us throughout the year. We appreciate Linda and Jim and all the support of all the questions and the folks that have come back every week for this.
And the Bolt Nation that turns up every week to talk to us. We really appreciate
Bolt
that.
might
They
have been
do
the biggest upside surprise, I think, for the year for this program. I was very, very pleased that Michelle, you get credit for bringing that into our lives. That was Bolt is a great operation. For those who don't know, Bolt Plus broadcasts to millions of homes. They are, in my opinion, the cutting edge of where media is headed. And I'm not getting paid. We're not sponsored. That's just, I like what they're doing over there.
Yet.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, everyone.
That's right. We're open to offers.
4 p.m. next week. You can find more about Business on the Block. That's BLOC and on YouTube. And we come to you through LinkedIn, Bolt Plus, and others to be announced. Thank you, everyone.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry
Bye.
Christmas, Happy New Year, and we'll see you guys soon.
Happy New Year.